We created this because there is no script. Every child is different. And if I were to give any piece of advice to a dad, it's have grace for yourself. Like, just like God gives you grace, why would you not give yourself the same grace? Just live out grace. You make a mistake, okay? Everybody makes mistakes. But we wanted to create a podcast where we can come to dads and share our story so they know that their reality is not much different than dads out there. And you're just learning as you're going.
Do you think anything is possible inside of Sin City, Las Vegas? I believe what God is doing is that he's bringing people together under the spirit of unity to display that anything and everything is possible through him. This is Las Vegas United. Well, hello and welcome to Las Vegas United. I'm your host, Dada Presley, and I just welcome all of you. You're watching from YouTube, King 17, or on our app. We welcome you all just the same. However, I say this each time, and I pray that you're actually doing what I'm asking. If you're watching from YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also to hit that bell so that way whenever we go live, you get notified because we want you to know what's going on inside of your city, okay? It's your city. And since you're praying for your city, don't you want to know what God is doing inside of your city just the same? And speaking inside of your city, I have a special guest with me today. He also, too, has a podcast of his own. We're going to get to that. Can you help me welcome DJ from Fatherhood Unscripted? Man, how are you doing, bro? Thank you for coming up on here today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, super excited. With you being here, can you let us know a little bit more about you and everything? Because the thing is, what you guys are doing is some really, really good work. And the thing is, I believe that it's important for us to know the people, right, that are doing it. And just so that way we're like, hey, you know what? I can really get behind on this right here. So can you let everyone know who DJ is?
Yeah, so father of three. That's the reason we do Fatherhood Unscripted. Both Alec and I are fathers. And the whole, reason this even came about is DJ, when Nate was born almost 5 years ago, was lost, didn't have community. It couldn't, is this normal to feel lost? Is it normal to feel not connected to my child? Is it normal to feel depressed and all over the place? And Alec and I realized there wasn't a whole lot of just dads talking about their story, talking about their journey as they go through it and have, some of the things that they've been through. And as we've kind of had guests on and just interviewed them, it's like, oh, yeah, I went through that too. And it's like, oh, I guess this is normal.
Right.
And once we realized that was the case, we're like, we have to continue. We have to continue getting our story out there, letting people know that fatherhood, it's not a one-size-fits-all.
That's a true statement, bro. That is such a true statement, man. Absolutely.
Every child is different. Every parent is different.
Yes.
But what you will see is the similarities throughout your journey with other dads. And we're in the process of creating a community. It's called Rooted in Brotherhood. And so where dads can come together, and it'll be on Facebook. We're in the process of building that out. I think we have basically the page up and running,
right,
where dads can just encourage each other and share their stories.
Yeah.
And just like Alec and I, we started at my dining room table, two guys just let's start a podcast talking about our journey and the healing that God has given us through that. It's just been incredible. The growth that Alec and I have received. I just feel like I'm more equipped to tackle fatherhood.
Wow. That right there is something else. I mean, especially saying, hey, when your son was born, you felt this disconnect because we don't feel the connection that a mother feels. Mom has been carrying baby for 9 months, and it's one of those deals where it's like they have a connection that we don't have. I recall when I became a father, it was 2 weeks before I realized I'm a dad. You know what I'm talking about? It's like, I mean, and maybe that's what you guys are like getting into as well. It's like sometimes the realization of the role that we now have, it hasn't sunk in just yet, you know. And so here's a question for you, because you know you guys have started this podcast and everything. What, I mean, you're sitting at your table, you guys are talking about this, and you guys are sharing your struggles as two dads, you know what I'm saying, from two different households, two dads, like, hey, like, we have some similarities. Yeah. I can ask a question, like, what was your upbringing that brought you to this place where it's like, let's talk about some fatherhood things?
Alec and I are best friends. Mm-hmm. We've grown up in the same church together.
Oh, wow. Wow.
He was, I think, 10 when they moved out to here from Washington State. Mm-hmm. And ever since that, actually, this is actually really cool. I feel like God just does, full circle.
Yeah.
But Alec and I, when we first met each other, it was love at first sight. No, I'm just kidding. But him and I, we started interviewing people, like just going around, just pretending to interview people, like, oh, we're here with, and there was this guy that looked like Santa Claus. We're here with Santa Claus, and it was at like a Thanksgiving banquet. We're feeding the homeless, and we were just interviewing people. Fast forward to today, we're doing the exact same thing.
Wow.
And it's like, maybe God had this ordained from the start. He's like, I'm gonna put you guys together. You're gonna become best friends, and then you're gonna share this fatherhood journey, kind of showing people how to lead their families, how to show up for their kids.
Going back to, it's like you're like from your childhood up until the point at the dining table, like, what did that look like for you? Because obviously it's, not because I don't know, right? But it's one of those deals, like, as you're going through life, and now you're a father, and you're sitting here, you know what I'm saying, mom is pregnant, you know what I'm saying, now she's had the baby, and you're like, yeah, man, I'm feeling this disconnect, and this other brother's like, bro, I understand you.
Yeah. From
the childhood up until the dining table, what transpired in DJ's life that was like, this is something I need to look at?
So when Nate was born, or right as he was about to be born, I said to myself, like, I'm not going to be like my dad. Like, you grow up and you're like, okay, I'm changing this about how I was raised. I'm changing this. And you don't really understand the healing that needs to go in order for you to experience that change.
Yes.
Well, Nate is born. I feel this disconnect. I feel these overwhelming emotions. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I didn't want to be like my dad. I was yelling. I'm creating this unsafe environment. My kid's crying, and because he feels scared.
Right.
Like, I didn't want to create the same thing.
Yeah.
I felt scared. I felt, alone in my childhood. I felt this unsafe feeling, and now I was creating the exact same things for my child. And I was like, okay, what is going on? So my wife, this is another God thing, I feel like, but my wife, Jasmine, she was working with kids on the autism spectrum, and they had kids on the autism spectrum, had kids with ADHD, just the whole spectrum in the classroom for preschoolers. And as she's watching this kid who has ADHD, she's like, I am pretty sure this is my husband. Like, so she comes home, she's like, I think you need to go get tested for ADHD. So I go get tested. Sure enough, I have ADHD. And almost instantly, I'm like, this is why I can't regulate my emotions. This is why I feel so overwhelmed when he's crying. This is why. And it was like, in that moment, God opened up and said, this is like how you were designed. This is how you were created.
Right.
And you just got to make pivots. And so that's where I found myself at that dining room table. I think, I'm pretty sure Rylan and Elijah, my twins, were already born, or they're on the cusp of being born they were already born when we started the podcast. And I was able to share just that first few years of Nate's life and how I got to that point where, like, I wanted to start to, and, like, by the grace of God, like, when the twins were born, I had more of a handle on who DJ was.
Come on. DJ's like, hey, I'm not sure how I'm going about this. There's a disconnect. oh, this is a discovery of DJ. Now DJ begins to evaluate and begin to receive what he needs to receive to help him in the process. And now he's like, okay, I have twins, and it's like the things I was doing before are no longer the things I'm doing now, and now it's a different environment. So let me ask a question, because it just kind of hit my heart. So now the twins are here, but you have your son Nate, right?
Yeah.
He's the oldest. He's been with, Daddy DJ before the healing, during the healing, and now after the healing. What does Nate look like right now? Well, how is your relationship with Nate?
He's my buddy.
Come on, man.
He's my buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, him and I, there's times we clash, and that's because we're very similar. And, because I went through this journey and I understand now how to handle emotions and, breathe through, you'll have Nate calling me out for stuff. Dad, not cool that you're yelling. Dad, you really made me sad. And he's able to identify emotions, and he has this emotional intelligence that's so beyond his years.
Right.
Because Jasmine and I were willing to go get the healing. Instead of sitting there and saying, well, I really wish my dad wouldn't have yelled at me as a kid, and now I'm this way because he did that, and not taking any ownership and being a victim.
Ooh.
I stopped being a victim, and I said, yes, because of that, I am this, person with these hurts, things that need to be healed, but I can change, and I can make a difference in my child's life. And all three of them, just recently, not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I was, had a moment where I yelled at the kids, and it's so cool because my daughter, she's like, yeah, I'm sad because Daddy yelled at me. She was telling Jasmine. And so Jasmine tells me, and we have this safe place of, okay, I need to go make this right. So I went to my daughter and I was like, hey, it wasn't cool that I yelled at you. I'm sorry.
Right.
And she wanted a kiss and a hug.
Oh, wow.
And we just, in that moment, I realized, this is what it's about. This is what fatherhood's about. And, yeah, just to, go back around to your question, Nate he's seen me through all of that, but he's also seen how to work through all of that. And I've been that example for him. And he, like I said, his emotional intelligence is far beyond his years.
Yeah, I would say what you've been able to do for your son is what many fathers would love to do, right? Is for our sons to see us. Unfortunately, right? We never want to see our children to see us at a low point. We always want them to see us as a superhero. You know what I'm saying? It's dad with a cape on. With the S on the front. That's the symbol of hope. I don't know how you get an S on it, right? But it's one of those deals where we want our especially our sons, right? But we want our children to see us as superhero. But sometimes it is good for our children to see us, kind of how do we respond to a time frame that dad is not superhero, that dad has been met with kryptonite, right? That something has come against him and made him weak, right? How does dad respond to that? And you think Nate, your son, has been able to see dad respond, and here you are now with this podcast, and you're talking about Fatherhood Unscripted, right? It's one of those deals to hear you. And you're like, man, I didn't always do it right. I would sit here and say, me as a father, I didn't always do it right. We blow it many times, right? It's one of those deals that it's interesting because, me and my wife, we have 6 kids between us, and I recall a time when I told my daughter, I'm kind of disappointed in what you did, and what I learned was a humble word of saying disappointment from a father really strikes to a child's heart. And if we don't at the same time turn around and say, I'm disappointed in this, not in you, but in your behavior, we're able to really help our children become a better version of themselves, saying, hey, you know what? if this is what disappointed Dad, I don't want to do it again. But it's one of those deals where I kind of just seeing your son, Nate, like being able to tell his child, hey, this is why I was disappointed and this is why. However, this is what I know you can do. You know what I mean? And he learns that from the example of DJ's dad, and it's one of those deals that in that right there, guess what? Dad DJ is still wearing that Superman cape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, for me, like, I'm just listening to what you're saying. I mean, because as a father and a grandfather now, you know what I'm saying? I'm listening to you. I'm like, yeah, man. Like, as a dad, man, we make some serious mistakes. But what I love about what you were able to do was you identified there is a disconnect. And on your podcast, I have a question. Like, do you encounter dads that actually recognize the fact that there's a disconnect, or do many of us dads, like, we don't even see it?
It's becoming normal to realize the disconnect. And I'm seeing a trend, and like the dads that we have on, it's really cool to see them talk about their stories with their kids and say, okay, like, I messed up here, now I'm going to go to them and talk about how it wasn't cool, and give their kids the permission to call them out on it. When you allow your child to call you out on it, it's going to strike a different chord. Right. When my son says, Dad, that wasn't cool that you yelled at me, it stops me dead in my tracks, like, gives me goosebumps. I even get goosebumps right now just thinking about it, because I'm like, shoot, like, I feel the disappointment from my kid. Like, right. I dropped the ball, I missed the mark, and I don't want to do that. I don't want them to be left feeling sad or angry because of something that I did. Right. And so in those moments, you're able to sit there and reconnect. So you have two ways. You can take it and say, I'm not going to listen to this kid. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Right. Or you can sit there and say, you know what? Regardless of what I meant, or regardless of, like, my voice being loud, I'm just a naturally loud guy. Right. So sometimes my passion comes out as, like, yelling.
I understand.
Jasmine has told me, like, yo, you need to tone it down a little bit. I'm like, oh, this is my normal voice.
Right, yeah.
But a child can view that as, oh, like, Dad's yelling. Like, one thing that I always caution dads, because I'm learning this, is don't, like, regardless of what you meant to do, don't disregard their feelings, because their feelings are still valid. I actually learned this from a therapist. Two truths can exist. I can believe that my parents loved me, but also I felt alone. Two truths can exist, because my feelings and feeling alone are like not invalid, because my mom and dad, like, they loved me still, and they were doing the best they could. Right. But it doesn't mean that my feelings were wrong or I shouldn't have had them. But now I can say, okay, I had them, and this is why I had them, but I also know that my parents loved me. Right. Regardless. If they couldn't show me that, right, it's not an excuse for them to have not shown me it, but I know that I can get the healing from this, and, like, two truths can exist. Right. So they can feel that you yelled at them and that you made them feel sad. And also, in that moment, maybe you were showing them love and they weren't receiving it in that moment. Yeah. So you had mentioned, like, detaching, like, the emotion, like, from them, like, oh, I'm disappointed in the action. That's what you mentioned. Yeah. And I think it's so cool, like, when you do that, they won't be defined by their mistakes. Rather, they'll say, oh, that's an opportunity for me to do better. Yes. Yeah. But if you say, I'm disappointed in you and just you, because I have another practice that I do with my kids. Whenever they ask me, Dad, how do you think I did with this drawing? Or how do you think I did with this coloring? My first question always to them, Jasmine and I learned this from a video, I don't know, but we learned this. We asked them, well, how do you think you did? Because I want them to have confidence in themselves. Right. And then, when they say, I think I did a good job, and I too think they did a good job.
You can reaffirm.
I can reaffirm.
Yes.
Versus them, because I grew up people pleasing. I looked for the validation from others, because what I was taught is I go to somebody and say, how do you think I did? Not looking at it and said, dang, I did good.
Yeah, yeah.
And then somebody comes around and says, oh, you did good. But I don't need that, because I already know that I did good. So just really bringing this all home, like, this is how you create, like, eventually men and women to live the healthiest they can live.
Right.
And set them up for success in life.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I love that, because as you're talking, I'm just like, yeah, like 100%. Like, it's like you think it's kind of like corporate America, right? Where it's like you have the whole coaching aspect, where someone does something wrong, and you bring him in. You're like, hey, how you doing? You go through the whole formalities thing, right? And then you say, hey, we noticed. I've noticed some behavior, X, Y, Z. So then you address the behavior, right? And then before they leave, you say, hey, however, like, these are things that you do very, very well. And because of that, I know that you can change this. Like, this is well within your ability to change it. However, if you need any help whatsoever with this change, let me know. I'm here to help you. And it's like, when you said, I was thinking about it. I was like, man, that in itself, I could have been such a better father just thinking of that. Like, I could have gave them like the good game on the way out the door. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, like, kudos, like, I got you. The helmet hit. It's like, you got this type deal. Whereas I can say as a father, I sometimes I wasn't necessarily the loving, gentle father. I was the abrasive, saying, like, go to your room, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, my whole entire life, But it's one of those deals where it's like you said, when we're able to really affirm or reaffirm our children, we're reaffirming the behaviors that are good, the behaviors that will set them up for success. We're not reaffirming the things that are detrimental to their growth. So, dude, I love that right there, man. Yeah. So here's a question for you. Yep. So, Fatherhood Unscripted. Tell us a little bit more about that in itself, because you guys are working on something too right now as well.
We are. So, Fatherhood Unscripted. You can find us on, Fatherhood_Unscripted for Instagram, Fatherhood Unscripted on any of the podcast platforms, YouTube, whatever. But we created this because there is no script. Every child is different. And if I were to give any piece of advice to a dad, it's have grace for yourself. Like, just like God gives you grace, why would you not give yourself the same grace? Just live out grace. You make a mistake, okay, everybody makes mistakes. That's why, like, when we started this podcast, we're just going to do it. Like Nike, just do it. Because if we're going to make mistakes, we're going to fail. And that's why I tell people, like, if you want to start a podcast, do it. Just know, I guarantee you, you're going to fail at some point. But it's what you do with that failure.
Right.
If you let it define you, then poof, there goes your podcast.
Right.
But we wanted to create a podcast where we can come to dads and share our story, so they know that their reality is not much different than dads out there. And you're just learning as you're going.
Right.
Because the firstborn, that's the first time you're going to do things. Like, always.
Yeah.
When they hit 10, that's the first time you're going to have them as 10. When they hit 15, that's the first time you're going to have them at 15. When they hit 20, it's the first time. Like, so you're learning as you're going. Kind of gives you that grace for your parents, too, because you're like, wow, they were learning as they were going. Yeah. And it's like, this whole light bulb moment goes off. And that's what we want to do, like that light bulb moment to go off. And then, like you mentioned, we're starting for faith-based dads. It's called Father Like the Father. And what better blueprint, right? Yeah. Proverbs 3:5. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't lean on your own understanding. That point right there, I just want to, like, underline it so many times. Don't lean on your own understanding.
Right.
Go grab God's understanding. Go grab heavenly perspective. And then what's the 6, right? Lean on your understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He'll direct your path. Yeah. I acknowledge the Father, and He'll direct me as a father. And that's what we're about. That's what Alec and I, like, we were wondering what our identity was at the beginning of this year. We now know that God wants us to go out and just help other dads in faith to be the best version they can be and to be just like God the Father.
Come on. And that's the part that's missing, right? Is the redirect of men, right? Of fathers. It's like we, as many times as fathers, we want to tell you, hey, go and do this right here and it should work. Well, guess what? We're just mimicking what we learned before, right? Yep. We're opposite of Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, right? We're the opposite of that. Yeah. But when we redirect everyone and point everyone to the Father, we're like, listen, we have some good ideas, we have some good concepts, we have some experience that we've learned. However, there's a better way of learning how to be a father, and it's from the Father himself. Like it, I mean, who would have thought it would make sense?
It's so simple. It's like people just like, okay, it's right in front of your face. You know, the whole saying, if it was a snake, it would have bit me. And God's like, I'm right here. Why are you going to all these sources to find out how to be a good dad when I'm right in front of you?
Right.
So that's what we're about. Like, and that's where Alec and I are coming back to. Like, okay, how do we lean into God the Father more? And we want to teach other fathers to do the exact same.
No, I love that. I love that. And so, and speaking of leaning in, if we could, in our last couple of moments here, for those that want to tap into your podcast and listen to what you guys have already done, and then also to what you're going to do, or even much more, like just connect with you guys, what are some ways that people can connect with you guys?
Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram, like I said, Fatherhood_Unscripted. And then our podcast is Fatherhood Unscripted. Actually, a pretty cool thing that Alex sent me this morning is right now we're ranked number 8 in fatherhood on Spotify.
Come on, my God. Yeah. Won't God do it, man? Come on.
So that's
so cool.
Yeah. So God is doing something. He's getting us out there. Fatherhood Unscripted on YouTube as well. That's where you'll also find the little mini series, Father Like the Father. And Alec has put 2 videos out this week. We're trying to do twice a week for that. I'll put out the next couple videos, and but that's all where you can find us. And then last but not least, we have a community page set up on Facebook. We just started it, Rooted in Brotherhood, and where we just come together as a community. We encourage each other as dads, and we share each other's journeys so that somebody can, like a light bulb moment, say, oh, that's how you got through it? And that's how I do it. Okay, cool.
Right.
And they can grow from that, so.
Come on, bro. Man, that's so good, man. Man, DJ, thank you for coming on, bro, for coming on here on Las Vegas United and sharing what God has you and Alec doing it, man, as far as fatherhoods and everything like that. Super excited. I want to get with you and talk a little bit more about that. You know what I'm saying? Off camera.
Right.
You're right. But no, we want to thank you guys for coming on and also to being with us here at Las Vegas United. Make sure, fathers, listen to me now. Listen in and go ahead and lean in a little bit. That's been the word for today. Lean in just a little bit more. If you feel as though you're alone in your fathering, just know there's other fathers out there that have been in the same boat you're in, or maybe in the same boat that you are in. However, there is a community right here. We just got done talking about it. Fatherhood Unscripted, a community that's willing to come alongside of you, hear you out, and also to guide you back to the Father. Because even much more, here's the part: what better way to become a better father than learn from the perfect Father himself, which is God. And I pray that you guys lean into that. Other than that, we'll catch you guys on our next episode here at Las Vegas United.
Our show is hosted by Pastor Dada Presley from Connection Church LV. To learn more about him and his ministry, please visit myconnectionlv.org. The guest this week is DJ Clendenin from the podcast Fatherhood Unscripted. Check out Fatherhood Unscripted on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.